You know the Magna culture, right? Nobody works for me. You people work with me. I'm working for you. The history of mankind has always been dominated by the golden rule. Here's the gold makes the rule. But I don't want to be dominated by anyone. If I feel that strong, I should not be able to dominate somebody either.
Welcome to the Road to Economic Freedom. I'm joined here with legendary entrepreneur Frank Stronach, the founder of Magna International and also the founder of the Canadian Economic Charter, his boldest and most important initiative yet. Today we're here to discuss Frank's newest endeavor, which is the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, SAFE. We're also joined here with Berit Bech, who is a small business owner here in Newmarket, Aurora, the owner of an architectural firm, Stamp and Hammer. Berit, thank you so much for joining us today. Could you tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, of course, and thank you for having me. I have a partner, the two of us own an architectural firm here in Newmarket, Aurora, and our clients are 50% developers all over Ontario and in the States. And then the other half is residential, high-end architecture. And we obviously love what we do. We create homes for people in Ontario and across North America.
Amazing. And how long have you had this business?
So we've been in business for over 12 years. We have really grown the last, I would say, 4 years, where we really have gone in and said, we want to be better. We want to help people. We really want to show what we enjoy to do and give it back to our clients.
Have you seen a stark difference in the economy and the challenges that you're having running a small business in Canada over the last 12 years?
And we definitely have seen a change actually over the last couple of years. We see the change in people financials on our developer side. It's been very tough for them to be able to develop. There's been a lot of red tape with the government, and it's also a change of product lines. People cannot no longer afford the homes that is getting built. So we're trying to change that fabric to make sure that people can get into new homes. But it's definitely a big challenge, and we're seeing that today more than anything. And with our custom homeowners, people are more cautious of what they spent their money on and really ensuring that they are getting what they need and not just what they want.
Frank, you have often cited that there's a looming recession coming, that currently people already feel that the fridges are half empty and things are going to get worse. If we look at what Berit is saying, she's seeing that in her industry that people can no longer afford the luxuries that they had before, and there's challenges in your industry because of that. Why do you believe things are going to get worse, and what can we do to change that course or at least slow it down?
Well, it's great to have Berit here, right? And before I get going, I would like to ask you a question. What are the kind of problems you have that you could expand your business, etc., etc. I had sometimes it's very difficult to get permits, right? Because there's so many bureaucrats. You can't have this and that, and so it's very okay. So what's your experience like that? Because when people come to you and they say they have a house like that, and then you sort of gotta advise them like, that would cost XXX. By doing this, it could be maybe a little cheaper. You got to afford it, but then the big problems do come is how to get your permits, right? And I have great problems with getting permits. So where do you see that?
It's definitely a big problem for us. It is something that we're seeing that they made a lot of changes in the permit submissions. A couple of years ago, they removed site plan approval, etc., to make it look like it was, or to make it easier to get permits. And what we have seen instead is all the same permits are just hitting under different names. And instead of having, back in the days, like 4 or 5 years ago, they had a specific rule saying that they always had to get back to us, whoever has submitted the permits, within 10 business days. That no longer applies. So what happens is we submit for permits, and it can be months till we get permits. There's no rules, there's no regulations, and all the promises of a faster process and an easier process has just been hidden under different names. So that's been a very big problem, and it's been a big problem that we see that the employees of these townships are very young, early out of school, and they have checklists that they need to go by to ensure that we get permits, even if it doesn't apply to the exact project that we're working on, which means that it prolongs the time that it takes to review it, because we have to keep coming back and say that doesn't apply, it's not in this certain scenario. So it's gotten worse, we've seen it, and it cost us money because it's our time. And obviously what happens is it also cost our clients money because it's holding up the project.
Yeah, so basically the client has to pay, right? If they need more. But do you think sometimes how can we make the process simpler? Because everything adds up to the cost of a house, right?
Yeah.
And now when you talk with young people or talk to elderly people, the elderly say, look, 50 years ago, we had no problem, to build a home. We could afford it. We could send the kids to school. We took vacation. We bought a car. But this is practically impossible now. So again, what's the process? Is it difficult to convince call it townships, because the building permits are based on townships, right? And but I remember, when I built my first factory in Toronto, I just I rented a small building, put a sign up there, tool and die making open for business, and I didn't need for years any permits, period. I just went out and I still remember when I built my first new building, a factory, right? So in the town of Richmond Hill, I got the permit the first day. I went there with a set of blueprints. The people in the township, they looked at you, stamped by qualified engineers, good for snow load, good for wind load, good for sewage. There's your permit. We're so happy that you built the factory here in Richmond Hill, right? It was that simple. But but you must be frustrated now sometimes. You want to help people. You want to see that the prices for homes. How can we reduce the prices? But if you gotta go to a process over and over, and this isn't right, and we can do this, that makes it pretty difficult. Huh?
Of course, we don't see it as much in the single family homes as more the developments. We see it on that side. We see our developers wants to build homes for anybody and anybody to afford, but the red tape really goes there with zoning bylaws. So for example, if we are putting in more units on a site, we need more parking. And because of rules and regulations, it's difficult to get that approved, even though we constantly say we need to build more. So obviously it's frustrating for us. We can't help our developers. We can't help then the housing crisis. That's gets frustrated and very long term of time that we spent trying to convince and trying to find solutions for these problems.
So I think maybe you could come up with some specific things which would not be necessary or which could be done. I usually find the architects are qualified because in order to be a certified architect, right, you have to go to a schooling process and an educational process. And I think they, as far as I can see, they would have a lot more ability to approve or to say this is okay than as you mentioned, there's a lot of kids coming out of school, then I might not even have had anything to do with architecture, then looking up maybe a rule so and so. I mean, that's why. So I think my recommendation would be to the architects that they band together and say, look, we can do a huge educational process. The safety of houses are very important, and the very key is in Canada, you had a snow load, right? That the house doesn't crumble if there's heavy snow thing, wind load, etc., etc. I think it should go back where the architect stamped the thing and it should be fine with that thing here.
It was that simple.
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
that simple 50 years ago, right?
So even when we started, it was that simple. We could actually have conversations with the townships. We could actually have human, and we could come to a logical solution. That has disappeared. There's no human conversations anymore.
Even in just the last
So-
12 years, you've
Yeah,
seen a significant
we have seen
difference.
the big difference. It was having relationships with the townships really was what drove our business, because we had the relationships, we could talk, we could communicate, and we could come to an agreement that actually made sense logically. Today, there's these conversations no
It's
longer
just the checklist,
exist.
as
It's
you
a
said.
checklist, and it really is very personal. We've seen it's very personal what their opinions are. They have a lot, like every township, we can have two exact same projects on two different townships, but the reaction is different. So the checklist is there with their personal opinion. And then you don't have a communication with them like we used to, which is, it's very, very much missing, right? Yeah.
So she's actually an ideal subject to be part of the economic charter.
Yes,
Because part of can you give me a leaflet of the economic charter, right? When I need classes when they read small prints. So it says number 4, unchained small business. Number 4, part of the thing of the economic charter is we have 7 principles. They're not political principles, they're economic principles. And principle number 4 is we say small business is the backbone of Canada. We gotta make sure that we don't hinder them. We gotta take off the red tape, the chains, and give them freedom. So basically I'm saying only 2 rules should apply. Workplace safety, we gotta, but so whoever builds the machinery would have a stamp to it. This is tested XXX, right? And then you cannot dump poison chemicals in your backyard. Those are the only 2 rules. And furthermore, the recommendation of the economic charter is small business should not pay any taxes, because small business don't make a lot of monies. Okay, it's small business want to grow, and they grow if the rules get a little easier, then they can hire more people than here. So if small business, we can eliminate those expenses, it would be enormous, right? We could set people free, and okay. So I hope to maybe talk to, I think the architect would have an association and say, look, you got to band together, right? When we stamp a building that it's safe for, snow load, wind load, fire, and all the things, it should be, would not have to, it should not be, there's no need for the township with unexperienced people to go over and prolong the process, and the costs keep getting higher and higher. So that's the problem, right? We again, I said early on, when the first computers came on the market, the slogan was, if you got one of those, you could office floor in a high-rise. And when I look around now, I see 20 times more office buildings. What do they do in there? They don't make products in there. It's all regulations, 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 regulations. So we got it. It's so by coincidence. I made with that architects have a lot of things with a lot of rules with the townships, and sometimes it's got nothing to do with safety or nothing to do with snow load, but it's just the opinion, right?
Do you find regulations to be your biggest challenge?
So I find it right now because things are changing in the world, right? Like it's changing in Canada and what people can afford, and because of a big part of our business, our developers, like when their world are changing, like ours is too. Like we can't do our job
it's very
now.
Closely tied.
It's closely tied, right? Mm-hmm. Like we are there to support them, and you know, if we can't get the red tape opened up for them, then we can't help them.
You can't. We should have a thing here when people give their time to come in to talk about the economic charter, right? Their time off their work, etc. I think we have no problem that you should clearly state your address, if somebody needs an architect, you would be very happy to interface and to work together with people. So we should have when people give their time to talk about the economic
when
charter,
we post
right?
it, we'll post information.
We could make sure when people will listen, right, to say, look, where Berit is, there's a good architect, and we get a high quality house. So we said, look, we were fortunate that Berit had some time, and she wanted to be constructive. We are not really, we're not saying it's the fault of the bureaucrats. It's basically the system doesn't, right? Yeah. We got to make it because I'm saying the bureaucrats, they have kids sometimes. If we don't do things where the economy can function, right, everybody is affected, right? So we're not taking away from the rich. We're just saying, look, we got too many rules and regulations, right? And when you got a family, you cannot lock your kids up in a rubberized room so they never get hurt, right? Because you gotta get them. You want to teach your kids and advise them, don't climb up on the highest tree, or don't go swimming with their sharks or alligators, right? Okay, we can, but accidents sometimes happen, right? Sometimes we ask, is there a God, right? Because sometimes a young kid climbs up a tree, falls down, breaks their back, right? But that's life, so it's the universe. We don't totally understand that, right? But we as people, we have good sound reasoning, and so we should be able to. It should not be able that you reason with regulators. We should have clearly blueprints which are stamped by qualified people, and that's it. There's no more. Okay, so we run over and over in that thing here. So we. I'd be very happy if you maybe to organize it, to get the Architects Association, if that thing, and say, look, if you band together, you should get rules and speed things up and make it better.
That would be amazing. Okay? Yeah.
Because we got to be aware, and I've always said, if things don't function in your private life or in business or in the country, you should have a problem. If you don't know you got a problem, you really got a problem. So we have problems, and we're not doing anything about it.
No.
Okay. So we have, this is the tax code, right? So we can the camera see it? There's thousands and thousands convoluted rules in there. It's so convoluted. And they benefit special interest groups, right? Because special interest groups, to get to get lawyers to find loopholes, right? But that's a country cannot function that way, right? So it's when you read in there, we have some pages there, like, I mean, it's so convoluted, nobody know. If I showed some of them to a lawyer, they was, look, we can't, nobody can figure that out, huh? So we gotta get a thing where things gotta be black and white. The tax system should be black and white. No more loopholes. If you make more money, you should pay more tax, okay? But small business should not pay any business tax. Small business, yes, they want to grow large, they want to hire people, and the people pay a wage tax, okay? An income tax. And if the owners take some monies out, then they will pay, if they take out more, they pay more. If they take out less, they pay less. But owners usually, which start business, they only take out as much what they need to live because they want to grow the business. And that's what Canada needs. We gotta get going. We gotta take the red tape off. We gotta take the chains off. Small business, we must let them grow. I'm so if we let them grow, we could create millions of jobs, right?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you find that you spend more time than you need to having to deal with tax regulations and trying to find loopholes to allow your business to grow and breathe?
Of course, as much floating cash I have by the end of the year, that's what I can invest back in my business. So any way that I can have more cash flow in the end of the year, I will try to find a way. And obviously, I always want to keep having new people in, like the opportunities and growing my employees. But it does make it hard. Like, I constantly gotta look at what it will cost me day to day to have a new employee in the house. Like, it's not just the salary, it's the taxes on the salary, it's all the benefits, etc. And I would rather spend my time educated a new employee than looking at how to do it and how to look at my tax structure to make sure I can do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's unfortunate that we have such challenges being able to grow businesses here in Canada. The drain that we're having of small businesses leaving this country, and it's commendable to see you trying to fight the system to be able to stay here locally in Aurora, Newmarket, and grow your business here locally. If there was one thing that could immediately change for you here in running your business in terms of reducing bureaucracy, simplifying the tax code, what would be the one thing that would really change your ability to grow and expand your business?
I think it's the heavy tax load. Regulations, I can always get around eventually, like for my permits, etc. But the tax code is heavily, I'm heavily taxed on all my salaries, which is hurting. And then when like our cash flow, our profits by the end of the year is getting taxed as well. So instead of throwing that back in the business, we sometimes feel like we are kind of wheeling in the same place often, and we really have to push hard to keep growing and pushing for it.
And if you didn't have those challenges, you'd be able to grow your business. You'd be able to employ more Canadians,
yes,
and give them the opportunity.
Both financially, also with energy, right? Like, I would probably say that I get calls from high schools at least a couple of times a month. Is there any room for having a high school student coming in and getting to know the small business and the architectural business? And I would love to have the energy and the time to do that. But I find, because I'm spending that energy and time trying to figure out how to make sure that I employ my employee, right? Like right now, I tend to not do that extra thing for the new young generation.
It's unfortunate how much energy it takes. I mean, Frank, you experienced the same.
Well, that's the key is when we make things too complicated, right? When we micromanage, and I'm always using, if a family have kids, they can't lock them up in a rubberized room so they won't get hurt, right? They gotta be out playing with it and competing, etc. And sometimes accidents occur, right? So we in life, when it comes down to business, we cannot put so many regulations that it completely stifles the business, right? And, if I work in a factory, I can tell, I don't have to look at the books. I can tell if that factory will make some money or not. If there's too many people in the offices filling out regulations and taking care of regulations, and there's less people on the factory floor, I know the company will not make any profits. So that's the dilemma what we got. We just gotta go, and again, something is wrong with the system. And the system is, and again, it's great to make a statement something is wrong, but the key is we need solutions, right? And at the same time, if I make a statement what's wrong, I make a resolution, right? The resolution is, and sometimes we got to take a look back in history and find out who are the great politicians or statesmen which wanted to do things right. So I gotta, over and over again, I gotta say it's Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill in his later years says Parliament doesn't work. The reason why Parliament doesn't work, there's only politicians there. The mandate of a politician is to be elected or re-elected. So Churchill said we need that means the whole country is managed by political reasons. So Churchill says we need a chamber of citizens to balance out the politician. But that'd be very cumbersome. In Canada, the Economic Charter of Rights say small business would be the chamber of citizens because they all will play on the same level playing field, right? So it's so important. It's the economy. If the economy doesn't function, the whole country won't function. And my worries are we're going in a very deep recession, right? Because our debt's been going up, our bureaucracy's been going up and still going up, and we don't make things anymore. Anytime you see a new factory being built, it's not a factory which makes things, it's a warehouse. We became a nation of warehouse operators. So again, I want to remind over and over and over to small business, you gotta band together. If you in the architectural, you got your associations, get together. So when we get together, how can we simplify things here? And then might be the carpenters or the bricklayers, they have to get together. How can we simplify? We got too many bureaucrats telling us what to do.
And as you had mentioned, everything is so closely tied together that you're feeling the challenges imposed by this ballooning bureaucracy. The developers are feeling these challenges. The construction workers, everyone can band together to bring in an economic charter.
So what I'm trying to do is the future of Canada is in the hands of small business. You gotta get together, right? And it's not the revolution, the destructive revolution. It's a revolution of the mind. We gotta simplify things so people can afford, can afford homes, right? And so again, part of the get together is to bring forward to small business, look, there is a way out. Band together with your association and come up with a simplified solution. Governments have no business to be in small business, okay?
I think that's a very important statement to remember, that government has no business in small business.
We have created an academy, Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurs. So basically, it's safe, right? Okay, where we like to advise or be helpful to would-be entrepreneurs, to young students which just finishing university or high school or colleges, right, to give them advice, right? So we'd be very happy to do that. and we can talk a bit about that. But here in small business, we have we got to know that look, we're just subject to too many regulations, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but that's again what I want to point out. We're way over-regulated, and again, I'm not pointing the fingers, right? Whose fault it is. It's, the political system doesn't work. And I know very well all the politicians, right? Brian Mulroney, the Prime Minister, was on our board, Bill Davis was on our board, Mike Carey, former premiers, right? It doesn't work for the simple reason, when I speak sometimes with young politicians, if they say, look, I want to change Canada, I want to get Canada back on. When they sit down in Parliament, the politicians, it's on a party-based thing here. They say to the elderly politicians, say to the younger politicians, you cannot say that. That's something new. If it's new, it can be criticized. And we would not be elected. And the other party would make it worse. So the system is trapped in the politicians are trapped in a system.
But how?
So we have to, by getting common sense, when it comes down to the economy, small business must play a greater role. You must freedom. Okay, so
and that could break and change the system?
Yeah, it is. So we gotta wake up small business, right? You got kids. You gotta think about your kids. The way it is now, there's no future.
I mean, that's a constant fear for myself, and you're a mother of two as well.
Yeah.
We still could save the country, right? Look, when we're young, we all hustle a bit to make some money, instead we can live in dignity. I created 180,000 jobs, over 400 factories in 34 different countries. I could live in dignity in any one of those countries. But Canada is a great place. So, and it's still time that we can change things, but we gotta wake up. We gotta wake up, I should say, right?
If we started making changes now, how long could we see the gains of making these changes?
It's a long process for the simple reason. You see, if the farmer doesn't get seed, he cannot produce anything. And a society cannot produce anything if they haven't got skilled labor. Okay, so it's so important that we...
we've lost our skilled labor force.
The number one priority of the thing in every province should have a skilled labor center where we teach young people skilled labor, the trades. And that's part of again, when you look, they can look at our corporate constitution. Principle number 6 is high school should end at grade 10. Then grade 11 and grade 12, we got to expose kids to the trades. And that's a win for the kids because they will be exposed to more knowledge. Mm-hmm. The more knowledge you have, the higher your earnings. Mm-hmm. So it's a win for the kids being exposed. It's a win for society because we haven't got people anymore yet. But look, I think the kids we raise nowadays, they cannot drive a nail in with a hammer and a 2x4, right? No, it's pathetic.
It's unfortunate.
But we gotta get to make things. A country which can make products and has less import and more export, they have a much higher living standard. So again, we gotta wake up small business, be involved.
But how do we catch up with the rest of the world that we've been importing for?
Well, the rest, you can only influence the world, like if your own house is in good order. If your house isn't in good order, how can you convince the world, right? Okay, we just could say, be careful, don't we do this, don't do that, what we do. So, yeah. So anyway, it's time yet to, look, I have a certain age. I have no I have no reason to, I have no agenda, right? I'm saying the country was great to me. I accumulated a lot of wisdom and experiences. I want to transmit that to the younger generation. Okay, so we gotta, it's small business, we gotta try to wake up and try to get involved. If you love your kids, you gotta do something.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
I mean, both you and I know firsthand the worries that families have now for the future of this country.
I think we should, because we're talking, even the politicians should wake up that it doesn't work that way. For the sake of the country, we got to make some changes.
Yes.
Because at this time, we just, like we all do, to a certain extent, we're all a bit involved that we have those problems, right? So let's get together in a civilized way, we could solve the problem.
You see firsthand when you're bringing in other businesses that you're working with, the challenges that you face that are trickle down to them as well. Do you see the shortage in the skilled labor force here in Canada as well in your industry?
So definitely in specialized skills, right? Like bricklaying, for example, is, that is really a specialized skill. And if you have a good bricklayer, you don't let them go. You don't. And so anything in a good carpentry, like things are changing, right? Like it's changing. Things are not done on site the same way. It's imported, like these finished pieces, wood pieces, instead of being done by skilled labor that could be done on site.
See, all professions, all trades, and because we gotta say, look, you must band together.
Yeah, it feels like there's a great expression that you have, Frank, where you talk about us being on a party boat headed towards the falls.
Well, it's
feels like we're very close to the edge.
To me now, yes, it's like you be on a boat on a Sunday afternoon, having a party, and you're drifting towards the falls. You hear the falls, and you still don't do anything about it.
So we need to wake up small business. Small business needs to band together. Okay. Please join us and join this movement at economiccharter.ca, the Canadian Economic Charter, where we can all band together to change the trajectory, to stop this party boat from going over the edge. And it doesn't cost anything. I wanted to thank Berit Bech for joining us today from Stamp & Hammer, an architectural firm located here in Aurora, Newmarket, specializing in development and also high-end residential, and anything that can get people into their new home. We are here to help them. Even when it gets hard, we are here from start to finish to really make sure they come into it and they get a home that they love. Thank you, Berit. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for standing up for small business. Thank you for standing up for Canada. And thank you for being part of the backbone of this great nation. Thank you, Frank Stronach, for proposing an economic charter, really the only solution to moving forward towards prosperity here in Canada.